The older we get, the more we mourn the passing of familiar anchors to our past. The neighborhood diner, the downtown movie theater, the old high school principal. And the more we mourn, the more we celebrate those places and people that remain. For 3 generations of baseball fans who've seen players change uniforms and teams change cities with dizzying speed, that anchor is not a place, not a face, but a voice. Yankee Stadium, 4 p.m.
I'd like to get the closest seats to home plate that you got.
More than 3 hours before game time, and the good seats are going fast.
That's the best you got? We got 2 little kids here.
Fans are packed 4 and 5 deep, risking life and limb, or at the least a ripped garment, in the hopes of winning an autograph from a pinstriped hero.
See you then.
Okay, Del. Take care.
Meanwhile, some 19 miles away in Baldwin, New York, Bob Sheppard says goodbye to Mary, his wife of nearly 4 decades, and heads off to the stadium.
The one Martinez hit, grand slam, it was a great, great shot.
Bob and his friend Herb talk baseball throughout the 45-minute ride until they arrive at the stadium. It's where Bob Sheppard works. Not 1 in 1,000 fans would ever give Bob Sheppard a passing glance.
Old man liver.
Except for his fellow workers, his face is utterly unknown. But his voice?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Ah, that voice.
Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
Bob Sheppard is the public address announcer for the New York Yankees. But for generations of New Yorkers, he is literally the voice of Yankee Stadium. He has been doing this work for 49 years.
I introduced Munson, Reynolds, Maris, Berra, Martin.
And in a ballpark that honors its heroes with a monument park in deep left center field, Bob Sheppard is a living monument to a game that surrounds itself with tradition.
One kid said to his mother, "Are all these people buried here?" And the mother said, "No, just the memories are buried here."
Bob Sheppard has been here for a lifetime of memories. He won't say how long that lifetime has been, but he was in college 70 years ago. On the other hand, he does deny personally knowing Abner Doubleday. But this much we do know. When he came to Yankee Stadium, Harry Truman was president, and Mickey Mantle was a 19-year-old rookie.
At first base, number 24.
Yankee first baseman Tino Martinez knows the meaning of that voice.
It's Yankee Stadium. It's Yankee Stadium. His voice, his demeanor, it just fits this whole stadium.
And when Bob Sheppard speaks, it is the voice from God that comes and says,
From the New York Yankees, Reggie Jackson.
Reggie Jackson, number 44. I mean, when he says those things, we all listen and pay attention.
Eddie Layton, longtime Yankee Stadium organist.
Well, Bob Sheppard is known to have the voice that sounds like it comes from up there, the voice of God.
So Bob Sheppard is special not just because of how long he has done his job, but because of how he does it.
Please direct your attention to the area in front of the Yankees dugout.
For years, for decades, the world of sports has been told that it is competing for the entertainment dollar with rock concerts, amusement parks, big-budget special effects movies. Marketing is the watchword, showmanship the mantra, and boy, has sports taken that lesson to heart. Indeed, the catchphrase, once identified with pro wrestling, has now made its appearance in sport after sport.
Let's get ready to rumble!
After sport.
And for the Yankees.
That is not, to put it mildly, what Bob Sheppard is all about.
At second base, number 11, Chuck Knobloch.
It'd be a little odd to imagine him yelling, "Let's get ready to rumble." Would you say that's a fair statement?
I think I would fall out of the dugout.
Even the new breed of sportscasters, like ESPN's Chris Berman, see in Sheppard's style an invaluable reminder of baseball's past.
As much as kids growing up now expect to see, not want to, expect to see the exploding fireworks, etc., I think they know there's something historical about baseball. And Bob Sheppard is living, or at least vocal proof that there is.
I find no fault with those younger, newer public address announcers all through the big leagues who shout and scream and yell. That's their style. This is my style, and I think it's encapsulated in 3 C's. I try to be clear, concise, correct. Clear, concise, correct. Without emotion.
It's a quality that Yankee owner George Steinbrenner, a world-class meddler, has never even tried to alter.
He has never come to me and said, "Bob, bring it up. Bob, be a little more emotional." Never in his 26 years here.
And if anyone had ever, forget Steinbrenner particularly, if any owner said that to you, I think, what would you say?
Sayonara.
Sheppard's love of sports and language defines his life. He grew up on Long Island, where he quarterbacked the football team at St. John's University, played first base on the baseball team, and where he majored in speech, a subject he taught in high school and in college for more than 40 years.
People think of me as a public address announcer, but that was only a tiny part of my career, a tiny part. All of my life, it has been in the classroom teaching speech.
But it was after his work as a volunteer announcer for a charity football game on Long Island more than half a century ago that his most visible or audible career began.
Lineups. Big discussion. The lineups are here. Thank you, sir.
A pro sports executive heard his voice, and by opening day 1951, he was the voice of the Yankees. What was the Yankee opening lineup in 1951?
Johnny Mize was at first, Jerry Coleman at second. The shortstop was Phil Rizzuto.
I was at that game, my very first opening day at the stadium, one of the most memorable sporting events of my life. I couldn't have recited that lineup on a bet.
And Vic Raschi was the pitcher. We played Boston, and we beat them.
It's too bad your memory isn't what it used to be.
I know. It begins to slip when you're 30 years old.
In fact, many of baseball's most memorable moments of the last half-century are indelibly linked to that voice. It was Sheppard who called the roll for Don Larson's perfect World Series game in 1956.
Your attention, please.
Sheppard who, in 1976, calmed the raucous fans before they caused a forfeit of the deciding game for the American League pennant.
And the Yankees request good sportsmanship on the part of all. Thank you.
And for the Yankees.
And it was Sheppard who this spring marked the passing of Joe DiMaggio by recreating the lineup of the 1951 World Series Game 6, the last game DiMaggio ever played in.
Number 5, Joe DiMaggio. Number 5. Little volume, little bit.
But for all of the memorable moments he has been part of, Bob Sheppard's work is usually routine.
Designated hitter. Number 1.
Between announcements, he has time to read a magazine, and over the course of a season, a shelf full of books, just as long as he knows when the next batter arrives at the plate or when the next pitching change occurs. Then, a touch of his foot on a treadle opens his microphone.
The catcher, Ina Diaz.
When the words are finished, he shuts the microphone off, except for those rare times when he's left it open, like at an Army-Navy game in 1961, when President John Kennedy walked across the field at halftime, coatless.
And I turned to the Navy spotter and I said, "Why, he doesn't even have on a top coat."
Out to 100,000 people.
I didn't know it. I mean, I'm classed in.
And for all those references to the voice from God, Sheppard prefers the original.
This is a reading from the book of Exodus. A certain man of the house of Levi.
A daily churchgoer at Long Island St. Christopher's Church, Sheppard is regularly called upon to offer readings. His faith has anchored him in traditional values, something he talks about when he's asked about the raucous, often violent culture of today's sports and entertainment.
Maybe we should have a more vigorous campaign to stop it. Call it a crusade towards civility.
On this night, however, as the game nears its end, Sheppard's thoughts are more earthly in nature, specifically getting out of the ballpark in time to beat the crowd. With 1 out to go, he stands at the ready, only to return to the microphone as the Yankees keep the game alive.
Tino Martinez. Almost.
Once more, he readies his flight. Once more, the game continued.
Designated hitter, Tilly Davis.
Until finally the game ends.
3 hours, 47 minutes.
And Sheppard, a man well into his 80s, if not older, flees the ballpark like a kid hearing the school bell. Darts through the park and into his car for the drive home. Tomorrow, there's another game. He will be there with one wish.
I would love more silence. I would love the pastoral picture that we used to have. Maybe Norman Rockwell would paint the picture of coming out to a ballpark like this and sitting back and just watching the game.
Next year will mark the 50th anniversary of Bob Sheppard's arrival at Yankee Stadium. Ask him if he has any plans to retire, and he notes with some interest that Strom Thurmond plans to be serving in the United States Senate on his 100th birthday. And that's this edition of CNN in Time. I'm Jeff Greenfield. Bernie, I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm Bernard Shaw, and for everyone at CNN, good night.
To purchase a transcript of this program, please call 1-800-CNN-NEWS. Visit us at cnn.com/CNN Time and time.com.